Alrighty everybody, what is going on? My name is Nathan ELEMENTofFROST, and I am back here again to bring you guys my final episode of Season 4 episode review videos of The Walking Dead. Alright guys, so the finale aired last night. Without further ado, let's get into it. My reviews do contain spoilers. For anyone who haven't, watched the episode yet, make sure you do so, because I'm going to spoil it for you. But anyways, yeah guys, last episode review video until Season 5. We're taking a 6-month break from these review and prediction videos. I am very saddened by this. They have been helping my channel out tremendously, and I'm just sad to see them go. But October, man, October, they'll be back. Anyways, last episode review video for The Walking Dead Season 4, Episode 16A, the season finale, goes as follows. Alright guys, so the episode starts out last night in an actual flashback. The episode starts out in a flashback previously at the prison. Now we can assume this is between Season 3 and 4. So the episode starts out in this flashback. Hershel's still alive. Hershel's in this flashback. Yes guys, Scott Wilson actually came back to film The Walking Dead. He came back for a couple days to film his scenes for this episode, because they had extensive flashbacks, and these were Rick's flashbacks. He was thinking back after this traumatic event actually happened to him, which we'll get into, by the way. So anyways, yes guys, so the episode starts off with the flashback. Basically Rick coming back from a run, seemingly. Hershel kind of talking to Maggie, saying that she loves her. Glenn comes up. He basically says, you guys did okay. I don't know, he kind of just reassures him, it's Hershel. That's what he does. Really great to have Scott Wilson back. First of all, really great. It's awesome. Awesome episode just because of Scott Wilson. No, but there's a scene in this episode where it just gets really dark, but at the same time, it's so fucking awesome. There's no other way to put it. Anyways, after that little bit of a flashback, Rick basically heads towards the fences and starts stabbing the zombies. Now these flashbacks are actually leading towards where Rick is starting to kind of come back from the things he's done. Obviously, at the start of Season 4, he was a farmer. We didn't really see much of Rick before he was a farmer, except for Season 3, obviously. But this is between Season 3 and 4. Obviously, we can assume where he starts becoming Farmer Rick, where he starts kind of coming back from the things he's done. Hershel kind of talks him into it. We'll get into those flashbacks a little later. Okay, so anyways, so it cuts now basically to Rick, Carl, and Michonne. They're hitting up the tracks towards Terminus. They're basically hungry. They're making little camps in the woods, and they're basically, they kind of sit down by a fire, and they have like a can of food, and Rick basically asks Carl and Michonne, how hungry are you on a scale of 1 to 10? And Carl says 15, and Michonne says 28. So Rick had laid a little snare trap. So he basically explains it to Carl after they go. But he says that, I'm going to go check these snares. It's been a while. And they both go with him, Carl and Michonne. So he explains it to Carl. He shows him how it's done. And this is where we seen in the sneak peek. This was the first sneak peek here. Where we seen them lay the snare, and he kind of showed Carl how the snare worked. They made this little pathway. Whatever animal's coming through has no choice but to go down this pathway and right into the snare, right into the trap. And he pulls the string back, it ties around his wrist, just to show him how it's done. Now, this is foreshadowing, deep foreshadowing, which we find out later. Towards, the train track being the path and Terminus being the trap. I really loved that kind of foreshadowing effect that they did in this episode, explaining how the noose works. They make this path and the animal has no choice but to go down it and just get trapped. Same thing with Terminus. Now, as far as Rick, man, I'm telling you, this episode actually had Rick, it had more Rick than we've seen in about a month, in all honesty. in about a month, we've seen maybe one scene from him, and that was last episode. We've seen one scene, him walking down the train tracks a little bit, and that was basically it. So we've seen more in this episode of Rick than we have in this entire month, in the last 4 episodes or so. So anyways, I was recently debating whether or not the show could afford to kill off Rick, and I do know they will eventually kill off Rick. They can. Those last 4 episodes, I think, were kind of hinting towards the possibility of that happening. The possibility, you know, they're kind of, I think they were kind of experimenting on how the show could kind of, you know, play out without Rick. And after this episode, no matter how great the last 4 episodes were, I mean, they were fantastic, guys. I can't lie, but when Rick came back, we really know why Rick is basically the star of the show, you know? He's just such a great character, a fantastic actor, unbelievable actor. We know why he's the star of the show, you know? The show can do without him, but I'm sorry to say, but it's a hell of a lot better with him. I can tell you that much. So, I would still watch, don't get me wrong, I would still watch if they decided to kill off Rick, or anything like that, or Daryl. I don't care what any people, you know, people say that if they kill off Daryl, I'm going to stop watching. Yeah, that's not going to happen. I would never stop watching The Walking Dead. I mean, hell, Daryl's not even in the fucking comic book, so come on now. But anyways, so they do this whole snare thing. Then they hear a scream off in the distance, and this was in the promo. They hear a scream off in the distance. Carl starts running. And it actually turns out to be this guy kind of surrounded by a horde or a herd of zombies. You know, the zombies are closing in. Carl is about to start shooting, maybe, you know, try to save him. Rick basically holds him back, you know, stops him from shooting. Obviously, they have to conserve their ammo. There's a hell of a lot of walkers there. Michonne can't take them all with her katana. You know, they're just going to start getting chased. Sucks for the guy, but hey, it's about survival here, man. It's about survival of the fittest. You have to pick your battles, you know. If you see a bunch of zombies surrounding one random guy, you can't risk your life for a guy that you do not know. Anyways, yeah, that's how I look at it, at least, right? So, anyways, the walkers, they start seeing them, and they run away. They run down the train tracks. Some of the walkers are following them, and some of the walkers are in front, eating something on the tracks. And Rick basically pulls out his gun. He doesn't shoot anything. He pulls out his gun. He starts hitting the walkers up front with his gun. Michonne takes out her katana, starts swinging, and they get out of that. So, back at the prison now. Hershel is actually waking Rick up from his cell. Rick's in his cell, and obviously the baby's crib is in there too. He wakes Rick up and basically says, you know, Rick, wake up, I need your help with something. Rick asks what it's about. He puts on his gun. Beth comes in. We see Beth, but obviously this is the past, so we don't really know obviously what happened to her yet. This is obviously the past. She comes in, she takes Judith, and Hershel basically says, you know, leave your gun, you won't need that, that'll just get in the way. And yeah. So that's how that goes. Now, kind of out on the prison kind of courtyard type thing, not really courtyard, but I guess field, I guess the front field of the prison. He was basically thinking back to the days at the prison. Hershel's still alive, still on crutches. We can assume that it was about 2 months after their first fight with the governor, and Hershel kind of wants to teach Rick to farm. You know, he basically says, you know, the war's over. Rick says, you know, we don't know that. Obviously, again, kind of foreshadowing what would come in the future, as we've seen in episode 8 with poor Hershel's head getting cut off by the governor. Sad times. Anyways, he wants to teach Rick how to farm, and to basically domesticate pigs and horses. He wants to do it so Rick can be kind of a real father to Carl, you know, to teach him something more than how to kill. As necessary as that skill is, he wants to teach him something. You know, if something ever happens to Rick, he wants to teach Carl how to grow his own food, you know, how to domesticate pigs, how to eat, how to survive, you know, other than just killing. He brings up actually Carl killing that kid back in Season 3, the end of Season 3, the season finale. He brings up Carl killing that kid. You know, we have to teach him something more than just knowing how to kill. he points out that Carl's a good shooter. You know, we already know that. Let's see what else he's got. All right, so now back in the prison. Actually, but not the prison, the present. But before I go there, Rick basically you can kind of see that he's kind of trying to take Hershel's advice. But at the same time, he needs to go out on these runs with Daryl. You know, he points out that Daryl needs him. These people need me to go out on runs. We need to patrol the fences, keep these walkers off the fences. You know, everything in his brain, everything in his instincts telling him to do these things because that's what keeps people safe. But Hershel kind of points out, you know, they'll be fine on their own. You know, we've been here 2 months. They can make it work. But you can see Rick's listening to him, but he's not there yet. So he walks off, assumingly to go on the run that he was supposed to go on in the first place. And that's what happens there. So now back in the present, night, it's on the road. Carl's asleep in an abandoned truck that they actually came across. And Rick and Michonne are sitting outside, basically by a small fire, eating the last of that little rabbit that they found in the snare. And kind of talking about food, you know. Rick basically brings up, you know, this is all we really talk about anymore is food, you know, how to survive, stuff like that. And he kind of forgot what this kind of felt like, you know, because he's been in the prison for such a long time. He forgot what it's like to sit out on the road just constantly talking about food. You know, he's had the prison as his sanctuary for about 1.5 years, in all honesty. I mean, if you think about it, it might not have been 1.5 years, might have been a year or so. If you think about it, the end of Season 2 was about 3 months into the apocalypse. Approximately 3 months into the apocalypse. Probably about 2.5, something like that. And we know they took a 8-month, like kind of an 8-month hiatus. There's an 8-month time period between Season 2 and 3. So if you calculate that together, that's about a year. Plus the whole time they were at the prison with the other 8-month break. So yeah, approximately about 1.5 years or so that they were at the prison. So he's had that sanctuary for quite a while. So he's kind of felt, you know, he forgot what it felt like. And Michonne basically says, you know, hopefully we'll forget again soon. Obviously thinking towards Terminus, you know, being that sanctuary. Whether that works out, we'll find out. But anyways, she basically says, you know, hopefully we'll forget again. Anyways, now, this is where it gets good. Rick's sitting here debating. He's like, I wonder if this is actually sanctuary. You know, maybe it's legit, maybe it's not. And this is when Joe comes up and points a gun to his head. And this is when it got good. Rick, Carl, and Michonne quickly surround it and held at gunpoint. One of them drags Carl out of the car, and Joe is going to shoot Rick. And basically when Daryl shows up, you know, Daryl shows up and he says, you know, hold up, hold up. He points out that these are good people. He pleads for Rick's life. You know, he'd been hanging back when we saw who it was that Joe basically was chasing. He steps forward. He pleads for Rick's life. Joe's not having that, guys. He's really not. So, you know, Daryl points out that Rick's good people. You know, they're good people. They're all good people. Probably not the wisest thing to say on Daryl's part. Anyways, Daryl gets jumped by two of the goons, and Joe explains what's going to happen. Basically, he says that, you know, Daryl's going to get beaten to death. You know, you kill my friend. Daryl's going to get beaten to death. Carl's going to get raped and beaten to death. Michonne's going to get raped and beaten to death. And then he's going to kill Rick. This is what he explains that's going to happen, basically. He didn't actually say raped, but this is obviously what we can assume, because he said we're going to have Carl, we're going to have Michonne, and then we're going to kill them. And then he's going to kill Rick. And then, only then, will we be even for Rick killing the guy in the bathroom, obviously back at the house, back in the episode Claimed. So now, Joe screwed with the wrong fucking guy. Rick's sitting on the ground. He basically, Carl's down on the ground. This guy's on top of him. We can hear him start to unbuckle his belt, obviously. And he basically, Rick basically warns him 3 times. You know, he's like, let go of him, let him go. And then he headbutts Joe. The gun goes off next to Rick's ear, and because of this, obviously he's dazed. Rick turns around, gives Joe like one hell of a punch. Joe basically kicks him down. Carl's on the ground, basically being molested. Daryl's getting the shit kicked out of him. Michonne's on the ground at gunpoint. Basically, Rick keeps fighting. Joe grabs him in a bear hug, and he's like, what the hell are you gonna do now? And this was probably my favorite part of the episode, in all honesty. Rick has nothing else to do. He doesn't have a gun. He doesn't have a knife. He has nothing but his teeth. So, Rick plunges his teeth right into Joe's neck. He goes for the jugular. And, yeah, he rips out his jugular, along with quite a bit of flesh, you know. The irony, basically, of what Rick's doing to Joe is exactly what zombies do to people. You know, it's what zombies do. You know, it's kind of what you need to do to survive, I guess, is kind of what they were hinting at. You know, walkers do it to eat. They need to survive. And Rick did it not to eat, obviously, but definitely to survive. So Rick plunges his teeth into him, rips out his jugular, and that was pretty badass. Now, Joe's dead. Daryl kind of, you know, everybody's kind of shocked at what Rick did. Daryl punches one of the goons that are on him. He punches the other one. He stomps the hit of the other one in. Michonne is able to get the gun away from the guy that's pointing it at her, shoot him in the head, and then shoot the other guy that's behind Daryl in the head as well. So now there's only one guy left, and I'm going to give you guys 3 seconds to guess who the fuck that is. 1, 2, 3. That's right, guys. The person who was going to rape Carl. Alright, so this is fun. Alright, so Rick grabs a knife off Joe. This is obviously when Michonne grabs the gun's wrist, twists it around, shoots him with his own gun. Only one's left now. Dan. Who didn't quite get to do to Carl what he planned to. Michonne points the gun at him, you know, let the boy go. And Rick basically storms in, you know, he says, he's mine. He stabs him in the gut. He rips the knife all the way up to the guy's neck. And then he just keeps fucking stabbing him. As Carl and Michonne Carl's sitting on, kind of laying his head down on Michonne's lap. Obviously, he was about to be raped, so he's probably kind of traumatized from that. But anyways, yeah, Rick stabs him right in the gut, rips it all the way up to his neck, and then pulls the knife out and just keeps stabbing and stabbing and stabbing. We get a close shot of Daryl, kind of, you know, he just survived those 2 guys, you know, beating the shit out of him. And he's kind of leaning against the car, and Rick just keeps stabbing and stabbing. We can hear the stabbing, and it zooms in on Carl's face. This was a really, really well shot part of the episode as well. It zooms in on Carl's face, and we can hear in the background, you know, the stabbing kind of sound. You know, it's like I don't know how to make the sound, but anyways, we hear that sound still in the background, so we can obviously assume that Rick's still stabbing him, and he just keeps going. And it basically zooms in on Carl's face, and we kind of see Carl being afraid. Now, whether or not that was obviously from the rape, we can assume that, obviously, but he kind of looks afraid of his father from what he's seeing his father do right now. We'll get into that a little later as well. Anyways, the whole sequence was really violent. Kind of keeping what the show's about, kind of in a scene. But yeah. Anyways. Moving on now. Reunited with Daryl. Rick. This actually, it comes to the scene the next day with Rick kind of laying against the truck. And, you know, kind of leaning against the truck. And this is when Daryl comes up as well. So this is when Daryl comes up. And they kind of sit next to each other. He gets reunited with Daryl. You know, Daryl hands him a rag to kind of wipe up his face. You know, you should save the water to drink. That's what Rick says. And he basically says, you know, I'm not going to save the water to drink. you look horrible, especially for when Carl wakes up. You need to be cleaned up, because he had blood all over the place. His whole beard was caked with blood, his whole face, you know, everything about him, even his hands, you know, we've seen his bloody hands from the promos and everything like that. We've seen that, and you know, Rick saying, you know, you're my brother. And Daryl kind of explains, you know, I was with Joe's group because I was with Beth, and you know, he was with Beth. He basically questions Daryl, you know, what happened to Beth, and he says, you know, she's just gone, because we don't really know if she's dead or alive. She's just gone, just like what Daryl said. But anyways, Rick calls him his brother, basically kind of the bros way of saying they love he loves him. But anyways, the four hit up the tracks now. Everybody wakes up. The four hit up the tracks and find Terminus. Obviously, it's not what they expected. We can get to that. They don't just walk in the front door, you know. I mean, honestly, this is kind of a smart idea if you think about it. If you find a sanctuary, you don't just walk in the front door. You don't know who these people are. You don't know what they want from you. You don't know if they're gonna take your weapons, rape you and kill you, eat you, even. We don't really know. You know, maybe the sanctuary is overrun by walkers. They walk in the front door, they're gonna get fucked. Anyways, they don't walk in the front door. Rick buries a bunch of guns outside, and we can come to this a little later in the episode, I guess. Well, it kind of leads to something that's gonna happen next episode, and I'll get into that in a second. Or next season, rather, not next episode. Probably next episode, but next season, so in about 7 months. Anyways, so they don't walk in the front door. They bury a bunch of guns, including Rick's revolver. They pop the fence, and in a warehouse, they actually see a woman that's broadcasting a radio message that was actually heard long ago, back in Daryl's car. Or actually, it was Zach's car, back at the beginning of season 4, I'm sorry, back in the old Charger that Daryl was in when they made a run to the veterinary college back in episode 3 of season 4. They made a run. Obviously, they got caught, but they did hear a little bit of a transmission saying, you know, those who arrive survives, Terminus, in kind of a blur. But anyways, yeah, we see this girl broadcasting a radio message. And they made basically what looks like a bunch of 20-year-old kids kind of running the place, you know. They are welcoming, you know. Gareth, we actually find out is kind of the ringleader, I guess. He basically says, you know, we usually do this at the, you know, where the tracks meet, but I guess let's do it now. So he says, welcome to Terminus. Up in this warehouse. They basically explain, Rick basically explains, you know, we wanted to meet you before you met us. Anyways, Rick senses trouble. Gareth kind of gives them this tour guide after they search them, after they put down their weapons, they search them, they make sure they're clean. They give them their weapons back, surprisingly. Rick senses trouble, not very long after they get there. So they're brought out to a courtyard where basically Rick's starting to see these little hints of what's going on. So they're preparing a plate, and Rick sees all these things that are kind of within their group in this courtyard that he sees that are familiar. I just got a call on Skype. Anyways, that's my bad. Anyways, he sees riot gear. He sees a poncho. He sees this orange bag that the group once had as well. And he sees this other guy having a pocket watch, obviously in his pocket, a chain going down into his pocket, and he basically, you know, he slams down the plate of food. He comes up to this guy. He takes this guy at gunpoint, pulls out the pocket watch, and of course, it's the watch that Hershel gave Glenn. Gareth kind of comes out and talks for a minute or two, but he kind of questions this guy that he's holding at gunpoint. You know, where did you get this watch from? You know, he kind of comes up with an idea of, you know, I took it off some dead guy. I didn't think he'd need it. Then he questions them about the riot gear, the bag, the poncho. Gareth comes out, says, you know, we got the poncho on the clothesline, we got the riot gear off a dead cop. Obviously he knows that that's a lie. They had a prison before this. That's where they got the riot gear. Glenn had the riot gear. Maggie had the poncho. The bag, Glenn had the bag as well. Glenn had the bag. It was like kind of an orange kind of bag type thing. And obviously Glenn had the stopwatch, because Hershel gave Glenn the stopwatch. Because, you know, he was saying that you're my family now. This has been passed down from generation. That's why he gave him the stopwatch. So anyways, Gareth comes out, talks for a while, and that's kind of what they, you know, do before the shooting starts. So Gareth kind of gives the signal, you know, we have nothing left to hide. You obviously don't trust us anymore. And he gives the signal for everybody to start shooting. So Glenn turns on him. The guy who's holding a gunpoint gets shot in the head instead of Rick. They run, snipers on the roof, basically shooting next to their feet, pushing them in specific directions. Now take note of this, guys. They don't want to kill them. They do not want to kill them at all. They're shooting at their feet. They're not trying to kill them. They want them alive. And we don't actually know the reason for this yet, but I can assume they're obviously the fucking cannibals. If you kill somebody and then eat their meat, the meat is tainted. If you guys don't understand that, you need to chop off meat, especially from a human that's alive, because if you do not, the meat gets tainted. You know, there's no blood going through anymore. You know, it just gets rancid, it gets gross, you can't eat it. So you need to cut off meat from a human that's alive with blood pumping and everything like that. So anyways, they're shooting that at their feet, pushing them basically in specific directions. They're all together. Daryl, Rick, Carl, and Michonne. They run through a door with an A next to it. They take a run through another door, and they're leading them on, basically. The snipers are leading them on. And this is kind of like, unlike the rabbit Rick trapped in the woods, they're surrounded. They're absolutely surrounded. They make their way into a church, which we see this kind of weird cultish type thing with a bunch of names on the floor, candles everywhere, mementos next to those names, assumingly probably the people they ate and killed. They're putting those mementos kind of in like a cult type of a thing. And anyways, yeah. So they're surrounded. Gareth orders them into a big red rail car. You know, he tells them to put down their weapons or he's going to shoot Carl with an A painted on the side. Anyways, inside, they go in to the train car. The door shuts. Inside, they find Glenn, Maggie, Bob, Sasha, Abe, Rosita, Abraham Ford, meaning Abe, Rosita, and Eugene. And obviously, Tara is in there as well. So we still don't know where Tyrese and Carol are, or Beth for that matter. We don't know if they've been trapped kind of in this rail car. We know, obviously, they're not in this specific rail car, but I mean, are they in Terminus? Are they trapped in another type of a rail car or anything like that? Anyways, they find each other. They're basically saying, you know, they're here. Glenn and Maggie introduces them to Abe, Abraham, Rosita, and Eugene. And Tara, you know, basically saying they help save our lives. They're our friends. Daryl basically says, well, now you're friends of ours. And Abraham says basically, yeah, for however long that is. And Rick basically says no, you know, kind of saying, you know, we're friends, but we're not putting a timeline on it, you know. We're getting out of this. That's what the no is kind of pointing towards. Now it's quick back. It goes quickly back to a flashback of Rick and Carl and Beth holding Judith with Hershel beside her, kind of farming. You know, Carl's sitting here raking and kind of hoeing. If you guys know what hoe means, I'm not talking about a hooker, but he's kind of hoeing. And Rick basically comes over. You know, you have to go on it at an angle. You know, make it better. And his hat falls off. Rick picks up his hat, puts it on Beth. You know, there's a new sheriff in town. We're gonna have to get you a farming hat. Obviously, pointing towards at the start of season 4. You know, Carl basically saying, Michonne questioning Carl. You know, why aren't you wearing a hat? And he basically says it's not a farming hat. So we can assume that's obviously where he got that from. And yeah. So that's what happens there. Hershel basically points out, it can be this, it can be like this all the time. Poor Hershel. He got killed. Man, it sucks. It sucks so much that Hershel's dead now, but it happened. He basically says that it can be like this all the time, and Rick says it's like this now. That's good enough. It goes back to the train car for one last scene, and Rick says they're gonna feel pretty stupid when they find out. And Abraham questions them, find out what? And Rick basically says they're screwing with the wrong people. Which, this is an exact quote from the comic book, except for screwing in the comic book is replaced by fucking. Obviously, they couldn't put that in the TV show, sadly. As it is obviously basic, cable TV. They couldn't put that in the TV show, family and, stuff like that. Would kind of, I guess, be offended by it. I guess it's just not allowed in basic cable TV, which I think is kind of dumb. They can see any other word in the book other than fucking. But anyways, Rick says they're screwing with the wrong people. That's when the episode ends. It kind of zooms in on Rick's face. That's when the episode ends. And, he basically says that as cold-blooded as he could be, really. After what he's done to Joe's group, he bit him in the neck, tore his jugular, stabbed that guy, pulled the knife all the way up to his throat. He's done this to survive since basically the apocalypse started. And that's where the episode ends, guys. That's where Season 4 concludes. That is the Season 4 finale, Episode 16A. Oh, it was such a fantastic episode. I still really can't get over it. Now, as far as anybody dying in this episode, it didn't happen. We've heard in a previous rumor that one of the people in the comic book that was still alive in the comic book as of now was going to die in the TV show. That didn't happen. Maggie's still alive. Rosita, Eugene's still alive. Rick, Carl, Michonne, they're all still alive. No one died in this episode. Well, at least major characters of the main cast. Obviously, all of Joe's group died. Except for Daryl, but no one of the main cast actually died. So, anyways, guys, hopefully you guys did enjoy this week's episode review video of The Walking Dead Season 4, Episode 16, the season finale, entitled A. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit it up with a like, share with your friends, and tell me in the comment section below what you guys thought of the episode. I loved it. I got actually some of my predictions right. If you guys haven't seen any of my predictions videos, I really recommend you guys check that out too. Before the episode airs, I air those predictions videos on the Thursday before the episode airs and everything like that. So, anyways, guys, I guess until next season of The Walking Dead Season 5, presumably coming in October. Obviously, it will be coming in October. I'm thinking it's probably going to be October 12th. That seems the most likely date because we've seen October the 13th premiere date. We've seen the 14th, and we've seen the 31st once, but that was because they wanted to premiere it on Halloween. Back in Season 1. But anyways, yeah, we've seen the 13th, we've seen the 14th, and I forget what else we've seen. But anyways, yeah, assumingly date October the 12th. I cannot wait until Season 5, guys. It left us with such a big cliffhanger this season, and I just cannot wait to see what happens next season. Will they make it out of Terminus? Will everybody make it out alive, for that matter? Obviously, we can assume that next season they're going to be going back for those guns that Rick buried out in the woods. Maybe one of them can get out, maybe get those guns, bring them back in before anyone notices or something like that. Kind of sneak out, bring them back in real quick, and get prepared for it. So, anyways, hopefully you guys did enjoy this episode review video of The Walking Dead Season 4, Episode 16, the season finale entitled A. If you did, like I said, hit it up with a like, share it around with your friends, and I will talk to you guys on the next video. Alright, guys, until next season, peace.